Good day, folks. This is another study I've done. We're going to look at prophecy today. So hang in there with me. We got about 49 slides to get through, and I'll try to get through them as quick as possible. We're going to look at George, Michael, and a dragon. And that's what our study's going to be about. It's going to be a prophetic study today. From Revelation 12, 1 through 6, we have the context of that is talking about the woman and the dragon. Revelation 12, 7 through 17, we have Satan. The context is Satan thrown down to earth. Revelation 13, 1 through 10, we have the context of the first beast. And then Revelation 13, verses 11 through 18, we have the second beast. Today we're going to focus on Revelation 12, 7 mainly, verse 7 mainly. And then at the end, we're going to go through 15 through 17. But we'll go through all the scriptures and read through them, and we just won't delve into them too thick there. But this is going to be the Satan thrown down to earth, and this is basically what this study is covering today. Now, over 2.5 years ago, I was wrong on looking at a Revelation as a futuristic prophecy, not realizing that the Revelation's been playing out over the last 1900 plus years. So I was very thankful that I found this sheet inside my home. I believe I know who left it there in my home, and I believe I know how they got it in their hands. But anyway, this sheet was left in my hands, and it comes from a website called Revelation Timeline Decoded. And this website, I've got the link right here, and I'll put it in the information box at the end of the deal. But basically, I was down on myself. Things didn't happen the way I thought they were going to happen in the way that I wanted them to happen. And sometimes we got to be careful of what we want to be and go more with what we can prove to be. And but it definitely humbled me. I went about a month without even picking up the scriptures because I was so mad at myself. And that's how I get when I make a mistake. I get mad at myself. I don't get mad at anybody else. I just get mad at myself. And I kind of shut down for about a month. And I just so happened to be looking at some of the stuff on my end table beside where I sit, and anyway, found this sheet. So the sheet's pretty neat. A guy by the name of David Wilcoxon put this website together. He actually wrote some books too. Tanya and I read the books. For the most part, David has done a wonderful job of researching history. And so I got to give him thumbs up for that. He's done a wonderful job of doing research, and just would like to state most everything that he shares, whether it be on his website or his about prophecy, you can pretty much prove out by doing the research on your own. So, and I challenge everybody to do that. We need to do that. We don't need to put our trust in anybody. Just we need to put our trust in what we can prove to ourselves. You remember Paul said, work out your own deliverance, and that's what we got to do. We got to work out our own deliverance. So don't put it in the trust of a man. Put it in the trust of yourself, working out your own deliverance. So a little portion that was in yellow there, that was how he set that deal up. He had the first layer, second layer, third layer, and fourth layer, and it's pretty neat how it's laid out there. And I'm pretty much agreeable on most of it. There are a few things that I'm not completely there with the author of it, but anyway, that's besides the point. This is we want to get into this study today and look at what I mean by George, Michael, and a dragon. Revelation 12 describes the pagan Roman Empire. Satan used the emperors to try to wipe out the early church woman. I agree with that. Killing millions of saints. I agree with that. In fact, I would imagine pedophilia goes all the way back to that time too, and I imagine they did things to children back then as they are doing today. So nothing new under the sun, huh? So I believe the pagan Roman Empire is that dragon that is spoken of in Revelation 12. The seal judgments caused the decline of the empire, and the trumpet judgments led to its fall. So again, David has went back in history and looked at a lot of writings from back in that time. And when I studied them out for myself and then researched them out, they look pretty much straight up to me. So I believe the seal judgments and the trumpet judgments have already occurred. And we got to look at the language as I'm looking in all my word study and name studies. The symbolism of the language. It's the Bible is coded, so it's up to us to search it out and figure out how it's coded and such, and look at what the Creator tells us. He says it left up to me to hide a matter, and it's left up to kings to search the matter out. So if you want to be a king in His kingdom, you need to search these things out. Don't leave it up for a man to show you these things. You can let a man show you these things, but it's up to you to go test and prove those things. The empire split into 10 kingdoms, the 10 horns. That's true. Satan countered by creating a false Roman church to try to destroy Messiah's church from within. That's true, and I believe the original bishops from the first century that was being spoken of by Paul at that point in time, they were already vying for a position in the ecclesiastical power of the Romans and such. So I agree with that. This is the tares planted alongside the wheat. I agree with that, absolutely. They definitely got some poison in what they speak, and that's what the tares are. If you think about bread today and the gluten in bread, gluten is a poison. And so I don't know if gluten is a plant that grows alongside and looks like wheat and such, but it's basically that's what tares are. It's just poisonous to the word of Yahuwah. The little horn of Daniel 7, popes plucked out 3 leaders who didn't bow to their authority. And that looks to be true. That looks like when they took over, the papacy took over, I believe, in 538 BC. And it's what these numbers are down here. These are AD 538, AD 476, and AD 313. The reason I highlighted this, 313 is going to be about the time that Constantine started legalizing Christianity. So it took a lot of pressure off of the Messianist, is what I would say they was, because they followed the Messiah, and others because of the Greek word Christos for Christ. They called it Christianity. So again, Greek is just some of the language that Paul spoke to get his word across to the other people. But if you go check this out, sure enough, there was 3 nations. I can't remember exactly the nations, but David has that information on his website, and again, I'll put those links in the information box. Now we look at Revelation 12 on his website here, and I just took a little snippet of it. It says Revelation 12, the pagan Roman Empire beast. This Revelation Timeline Decoded Bible Study focuses on the beast of Revelation 12, the pagan Roman Empire. The first layer of the Revelation timeline is the description of the 3 forms of the Roman beast, and that would be the Roman Empire initially until 538, and then the Roman Catholic Church from 538 to 1798. By the way, that's 1260 years. And then the Jesuits basically took over. They caused the fall of the original first beast, and then they came in as the second beast, but the Jesuits of Rome. Again, I won't go into deeper than that. Just pique your interest and go check the website out from David. Let's see here. 3 found in Revelation 12 and 13. So both those are covered, as I mentioned in the slide earlier. It covers the first and second beast in 13, and basically the Roman Empire during Revelation 12. And that's that the Church of Messiah has had to face through its history. So it has. We still face it to this day. We're still dealing with all the harlot daughters of Babylon have been influenced. I was raised Baptist, and my Baptist church was definitely influenced by Catholicism, and they've got some bad things that they teach, some evil things that they teach. They have some good things that they teach, but they also have some bad things, and that can fall into that tree of the good and evil. Just think of it that way. I'm doing a study on tree. It's going to be a big study. Hope to get that out soon, Yahuwah willing. In its simplest form, the apocalyptic vision describes a battle between the Satan-empowered Roman beast against Messiah and his church. True. As Messiah caused one form of the Roman beast to lose power. True. Satan caused the next form to rise up. True. Revelation 12 describes the iron legs of the statue in Daniel 2. I agree with that. The dreadful beast of Daniel 7, the Roman Empire, which was dreadful and exceedingly strong. And remember that last beast is in there until the triumphant return of the Messiah. So let's go through our Messiah's description of how his followers endured the Satan-empowered Roman Empire beast that is described in Revelation 12. The context is the period of time from 95 AD to 476 AD, from the time John wrote the Revelation until the last Roman emperor. So again, that goes from 95 AD to 476 AD on the Western Empire, and then it was for a short period of time. There was a different type of kingdom in Rome, and then of course 538 is when the papacy began. So Paul wrote about that short period of time too. So the Roman Empire was holding the bishops back from taking over until that short period of time from 476 to 538. That's basically 62 years. So considered a short period of time until the papacy took over. All right, so now what you get when you Google the rapture, this is some of the things that pulled up. I just copied and pasted these. Again, these are these fantastical visions, something that I got, I didn't necessarily believe in the rapture 3 years ago. I believed that there was going to be, well, actually, I did believe in the rapture, so I better stop that. I did believe there was going to be, his set apart people were going to be pulled out and be trained for 3.5 years and come back. And I had some doubts in it because there were some things that just did not line up. But again, because I had a hatred for this world as it was going, I wanted to get out as soon as possible. And sometimes when you wish for things, you get what you wish for, and that's exactly what happened to me. But anyway, there's a lot of fantastical stories. You also look at Left Behind series. Here's the books, basically picture of the books here. But just Google the rapture and just see what or Google Left Behind, and you'll just see some of the craziness. If you study scriptures and get into it, there's not going to be the rapture in the sense that everybody's looking at these fantastic, amazing miracle type stories that are being portrayed in these movies and these books. When Wikipedia, when I look at the futurism, what is futurism? Christianity. So I used to believe in futurism. I used to believe there was a gap between the time that the book of Revelation was written. There was no prophecy being fulfilled from that time when John finished the book all the way until the last few years on earth. So I believed in futurism. So let's look at futurism as what Wikipedia says. Futurism is a Christian eschatological view that interprets portions of the book of Revelation, the book of Ezekiel, and the book of Daniel as future events in a literal, physical, apocalyptic, and global context. I would like to add Matthew 24, Mark 13, and Luke 21 are also prophecies that's already historically been fulfilled. So there's no future fulfillment of Matthew 24, Mark 13, or Luke 21. Again, I'll let y'all go do the research. Go check out David's website. Again, don't trust everything that David says in there, go check it out, test and prove it for yourself. Here's what Wikipedia says about the Great Tribulation. In the futurist view, a Christian eschatology, the tribulation is a relatively short period of time where anyone who chose not to follow Elohim before the rapture and was left behind according to the pre-tribulation doctrine, not mid or post-tribulation teaching, will experience worldwide hardships, disasters, famine, war, pain, and suffering, which will wipe out more than 75% of all life on the earth before the second coming takes place. So again, we've got to learn what the symbolism of the language, how the words were coded. Just go read a chapter of Jude or James or Peter. Just go read and see how them guys spoke. They spoke in parables. They spoke in coded language. So worldwide hardships, disasters, famine, war, pain, and suffering has been happening since the fall of man, since the fall of mankind. Those things have been happening. Just 75% of all life on the earth, that's going to that scripture where it says a quarter of the earth perish. And again, you've got to understand what earth is in Revelation. Earth is not what you think it is. It's a region, it's an area. It's not the whole entire world. It's a region and such. Now there are other parts of earth that it means it's the whole entire plane of earth, but this earth that was predicted in was just a region, and it was talking about the Roman Empire, the region of the Roman Empire. Now the history of futurism, here you go, guys, 2 Catholic Jesuit writers at different times, one in the 18th century and one in the 16th century. But 2 Catholic Jesuit writers. Who's our Pope today? What faction is he out of? He's out of the Jesuits. Who are the 2 appointees at the Supreme Court that Trump made during his term? They were Jesuits. They were Catholic Jesuits. Who's our current president? I don't know if he's a Jesuit. I haven't really researched that, but he's definitely a Catholic. So 2 Catholic Jesuit writers, Manuel Lacunza from 1731 to 1801. So that gets you close to, that gets you, he lived during the fall of the first papacy, the first beast and such, and you might get a gist of why that happened as we read on here. And Francisco Ribera, he was back in the 16th century from 1537 to 1591, proposed the futurist view. So two Jesuits proposed the futurist view. So guys, that alone should be a red flag to anybody. If I would have known that 4 years ago, or even back, even back further, it would have kept me from going through what I've gone through. But again, I believe Yahuwah, there was a purpose why I went through that, and I thank him daily for those times that we go through them things, because it either kills you or it heals you. And to me, it was a healing. So they propose this futurist view. Lacunza wrote under the pen name Ben Ezra. So he used a Hebrew name to try to make it even sound better with a Hebrew name. So, and his work was banned by the Catholic Church. So the Catholics and the Jesuits started fighting amongst themselves. If you read enough of David's stuff and where he went back in history, you will see historically the Catholics brought the Jesuits in back in the it would have been the 16th century, which would have been around Francisco Ribera's time, because that's when that was the period of time when Luther finally got his hands on a German copy of the actual scriptures that had been translated into German. He read them and really realized that his own Catholic Church, you keep in mind, Luther was a Catholic monk. His own Catholic Church he saw as the Antichrist. So he wrote the 95 Theses, supposedly nailed it to the doors of the church, and a lot of falling out happened. In fact, England, which was a part of the Roman Empire at that time, succeeded away from them, which they had 10 nations at the time. And you remember there was a prophecy that a tenth of the city would fall. Well, that was talking about England. England fell away from the Roman Catholic Church, but through their Satan's tricks, he eventually got the Jesuits involved. The Jesuits were used to counter the Reformation of the Martin Luther Reformation, which makes sense. But the Jesuits were real extreme compared to the Catholics. The Catholics just thought they were extreme, but the Jesuits, they're probably the most wicked, evil order, secret society there is. And they call themselves the Society of Jesus. So they're sick. They're sick people in what they believe and such. But this is who was writing this. So the reason they got banned by the Catholic Church, they were already trying to get Jesuits kicked out of the nations that the Catholic Church controlled. So they were trying, and the Jesuits, that's a no-no. So you do that to the Jesuits, man. If you've ever read the Jesuit Oath, you'll see what the Jesuits will do. They'll even kill their mother if their mother turns against them. So the Jesuits saw this as the Catholic Church turning against them. Lacunza being one of the Jesuits that they banned his work. Go read, go study up. You can click, once you go to this link here, you can click on Manuel Lacunza and you can do some more research there and find out more about him. But you're going to see how it lines up and such with Scripture. Up until the 19th century, the futurist view was generally shunned by non-Catholics. So non-Catholics would be the ones that were not. They'd be the believers in the Messiah, right? So the Catholics say they believe in a Messiah, but it's a false Messiah. It's not the true Messiah. In fact, their popes put themselves up as the vicar of Christ. They call themselves the vicar of Christ. You look up at vicar, and then you look up anti. They can both mean substitute. Anti can mean substitute too, and also by their teachings they oppose the word of Yahushuo, which is the Messiah. The Messiah is the word. They oppose that because they change it around. They've changed the commandments because they don't like it that they can't have any idols. So they got rid of that commandment where they could have all the idols they wanted to have in their shrines and the cathedrals and everything else. But anyway, so you can see up until the 19th century, which was the early 1800s, and that's when the first beast fell, was at the end of 1798, and I believe it was due that the Jesuits took them out for what they did to people like Lacunza here, where he was banned. They said, you don't do one of our brothers like that, so they helped take the first beast out, and they're the second beast as of today. Again, do your research on that. But they were generally shunned by non-Catholic, being seen as a self-defense of the papacy against the claims of the historicist reformers. So the historicist reformers, that's what I am today. I'm a historicist reformer. So this is what I'm trying to convey to y'all. So this is, the Catholics use this. Originally they used these to try to counter what the historicists were saying before then. And you go back before the 19th century, and or you go into the 19th century and not too far into the 19th century and before, and you look at a lot of theologians, and a lot of theologians were all historicists, and they all saw the Catholic Church as the beast, and they also saw the papacy as the beast there, the Antichrist. All right. So this study started off, a friend of mine's texted me this video yesterday, and it's on TikTok, and anyway, it's an interesting fella there. He's got several videos, but you can see he's called the trumpet, Ezekiel 33:3. I find it I wonder if there's anything to that 33:3 why he uses that. But anyway, you can go watch some of his videos if you like. He has 445,000 plus followers, and this video alone got 2.2 million likes. So this video was about 666 United Nations Placid, home of the beast. So granted, I believe the United Nations is part of the beast, but the true home of the beast is straight. All roads lead back to Rome, so that beast is still over there in at the papacy and everything. But anyway, check out his video. Again, it'll be in the information bar, and it's interesting to say the least. And I'm thankful that my friend sent it to me. My mouse just fell down. There we go. But my friend sent it to me, so I'm thankful to her for sending it. And we'll just take a look at the. Let me get my mouse put back together. We'll take a look at the rest of the slides here. So Revelation 12:7 through 17. I'll read it real quick. And there was a war in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon fought and his angels and prevailed not. Neither was their place found any more in heaven. And the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent called the devil and Satan, which deceives the whole world. He was cast out into the earth, and his angels were cast out with him. And I heard a loud voice saying in heaven, now has come salvation and strength and the kingdom of our Elohim and the power of his Messiah. For the accuser of our brethren is cast down, which accused them before our Elohim day and night. And they overcame him by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony, and they loved not their lives unto the death. Therefore rejoice, ye heavens, and ye that dwell in them. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea, for the devil is come down unto you, having great wrath, because he knoweth that he hath but a short time. And when the dragon saw that he was cast into the earth, he persecuted the woman which brought forth the man-child. And to the woman were given 2 wings of a great eagle, that she might fly into the wilderness, and to her place, where she is nourished for a time and a times and a half a time from the face of the serpent. And the serpent cast out his mouth, water as a flood after the woman, that he might cause her to be carried away of the flood. And the earth helped the woman, and the earth opened her mouth and swallowed up the flood which the dragon cast out of his mouth. And the dragon was wroth with the woman, and went to make war with the remnant of her seed, which keep the commandments of Elohim, and have the testimony of Yahushuo Messiah. So real quickly, just go back. Heaven, guys, can symbolically just mean power. So there was war in the powers. Okay, there's the power of the word of Yahuwah, which is Michael and his angels fought against the dragon and his angels. The dragon is in his angel. They have the false gospel. That's the power that they wield. And then the true gospel comes from Michael and his angels. So heaven, if you look up heaven in the Greek, go check it out. It means more than just what you think heaven is. And if you think of Genesis 1, where he separated the waters from above from the waters below, and you look at that in symbolism, you'll understand the waters from above. If we drink from the waters from above, we get salvation. If we drink from the waters below, we don't get salvation, because those are from lowly men. So again, this is not a literal heaven. So you're not going to see like some of these crazy movies and such that can cast that type of image on it. You're not going to literally see that. War is going on daily. It's still going on to this day. I'm trying to fight the good fight myself. So I'm fighting a war myself. But this is going back to then. Okay. So this is during that time period between that 95 AD to about 313 AD that this fight was going on. And Satan prevailed not, and his army prevailed not, neither was their place found any more in heaven. So they lost their power. So we'll see how they lost their power later on in the study. And great dragon was cast out, that old serpent called the devil and Satan. So serpent, the old serpent, remember, the devil, Satan. Satan just means adversary. You remember, anybody adverse to the word of Yahushuo. He told Peter, "Get me behind me, Satan." Was Peter Satan? No, he wasn't literally Satan, but he was being an adversary to what the Messiah was speaking to. And so anyway, all of us have been Satan at one time or another. So, and we've been influenced by that entity, that spirit of evil. It's that old serpent, the same one that deceived mankind back in Genesis. See, he deceives the whole world. So, to me, he's deceived every one of us. I don't think there's any one of us that have lived from the beginning of time that haven't been deceived. We've all been deceived from the time of the original mankind until today. He was cast out into the earth. Okay, well, the earth again can be symbolic of just a region, an area that is controlled by someone, and his angels were cast out with him. Let's see, real quickly, I wanted to say here on verse 11, and they overcome him by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony. So, I just did a study on flesh and blood, and you remember the Messiah said, eat my flesh and drink my blood. So blood is symbolic. Okay. So a lot of people look at that blood as the blood that was that the Messiah bled out when he was being killed, and they believe that's the blood that saved them. He did pay the ransom by dying, but was it literal blood that washes away our sin? No, I believe what washes away our sin is His word. So the blood of the Lamb is His word. That's what we gotta try to imitate and be. And if we want to be the blood of the Yahushuo, we need to become like the word of Yahushuo. Okay, so that's what the blood of the Lamb. That's a witness. So when we look at the two witnesses of Revelation, in Revelation 11, those two witnesses are, I used to think they might have been Moses or Elijah, and I think Enoch was another one. But guys, that's just not it. The witnesses is the word. It's the scriptures. That's one witness. And by the word of their testimony, that's the people, that's the angels that were testifying to others with their words. So they take the word of Yahuwah and they testify His word with their word, and they love not their lives unto the death. So again, that has a lot of symbolism there too, but it also has a reality too, just by what historically happened back in those early times, in the early centuries there. So let's look at Revelation 12:7 and highlight Michael and his angels here, and then we'll look at the dragon and his angels. Okay, so that's going to be the rest of our slides pretty much, and then we'll delve a little bit off on a few other verses from there. Who are Michael's angels? Okay, I would like to know. So when we look up angels in Scripture in Renewed Covenant, it's G32, Greek Strong's number 32. Angelos is the pronunciation. They didn't have a J sound yet at that time. There was no J sound, so it was angelos, just that the G was pronounced with a. Later on, we get that angel sound in the English because the English 500 years ago added J to the language, and plus they took the G and started using the G, the phonics of the G, not only as a G sound but also as a G sound and such. But it means to bring tidings. Is the verb that comes from that. So this is the action. If you're an angel, your action is to bring tidings. Okay, that happens 186 times in the Renewed Covenant. Now, if we look at Euangelizo. That's a combination of angel and another combination of a word, and it means to announce good news, evangelize, especially the gospel. Okay, to announce good news, evangelize, especially the gospel. So anybody that speaks to someone else about the truth in his scriptures, they're evangelizing. That's exactly what you're doing. If you declare something, you bring glad tidings, you bring good tidings, you declare glad tidings, you declare good tidings, or you show glad tidings, or you show good tidings, or you preach the gospel. You know, that's what you're doing. There's no ifs and buts about it. That's what you're doing. When you're doing that, you're doing these things here. So, total times that's found in Scripture, if you want to look it up, there's 55 times. Now we go back to angelos, which is angel, and we find out here we're going to look at these in the etymology. This is a messenger, angel, as we know the spelling today, and a pastor. So when we look at etymology, we got here messenger, a noun, one who bears a message. So that's any of us. I mean, even if it's a bad message, you can be a messenger. So there's good messages, there are bad messages. The bearer of verbal or written communication, again, good or bad. Messenger, good or bad. Envoy, good or bad. Ambassador, good or bad. From around about 1200 as a harbinger, good or bad. Forerunner, good or bad. Precursor, good or bad. But this one here is in reference to John the Baptist as a precursor of Messiah. So John the Baptist was considered a precursor. So what did he do? I did the study on that where I showed the two blood red moons, one on the first day of the year and the one on the first day of the 7th month, which is basically looks like the birthdays because they happened in 5 BC and they were 6 months apart in birth. So John the Baptist was born 6 months before the first day of the first month. You set the tabernacle up. That's symbolically what John the Baptist was doing. He was getting the tabernacle ready for the Messiah, and then 6 months later the Messiah was born. So interesting information, man. It's awesome stuff. Angel, noun, one of a class of spiritual beings. Are you a spiritual being? Are you one of a class of a spiritual being? Absolutely you are. So you're an angel. By context alone, you're an angel. Attendants and messengers of Elohim. Are you attendant and messenger of Elohim? I know a few. I know a few, and I've studied with a few. So they're angels. A messenger, envoy, one that announces. Again, that can be a good or bad. Remember, Satan had angels too, so that could be bad messenger, bad envoy, one that announces. In the new covenant, renewed covenant, it can mean divine messenger, a mounted courier. So mounted courier, again, if we think of that symbolically, if we're mounted up on a horse, which a horse is powerful and it runs fast, we can become a mounted courier. So we can all be angels. The Greek word was used in scriptural translation to Hebrew malach. You can see here they've got it Yehovah. I say Yahuwah, but I don't know what the true, but Yahuwah works for me. I like the other one called Yahweh. I like that one too, and such. Messenger of Jehovah. So we know J didn't exist back when the Hebrew was written. The J didn't exist until about 500 years ago. So it replaced the Y sound. So you can go check that out yourself. But J never existed. So there was never a name of Jesus back in scriptural times. When they lived, there was no Jesus. Now, of course, Paul wrote to the Greeks, and he had to write Iesus, which means Savior. So, and that's how they took that Iesus and turned it into Jesus there, because the I became a J. All right, we're going to look at Malach here too, but first we're going to look at pastor, it's a noun, late 14th century. Shepherd, one who has care of a flock or a herd. A sense now obsolete. So nobody talks about, a pastor being a shepherd anymore. Um, they're they're usually sheep's and wolf's clothing is what they are today. But anyway, but that's how a shepherd was considered. The Messiah was considered a shepherd. What did he tell Peter? He told Peter, take care of my flock, feed my sheep. He wanted Peter to shepherd his people, and Peter did. Peter did exactly what the Messiah asked him to do. He also feared him, spiritual guide. So again, if you're helping anybody get a hard way through life and get to a good point in their life, you could be a spiritual guide. You can also be a spiritual guide in a bad sense too. You could lead people into a bad spiritual place. So that goes both ways. Shepherd of souls, again, that can go both ways. A Christian minister or clergyman. So again, that's true. Most pastors I know the Baptist church, they're called pastors. Pastor Duggan was the first one that I can remember. See, what was Pastor Noble was the next one. And then we got, what was the last one? My goodness. But anyway, but of course they talk the Jesuit controlled basically theology way, where everything kind of got lost in the shuffle in the middle 19th century, early 19th century, the late 19th century. So anyway, they got a false gospel being spoken. A pastor can also be considered herdsman, a shepherd. It's 12th century. Shepherd, to lead the pasture, set to grazing, calls to eat. So you remember when you look up the word for Passover and you look up that lamb, one of the definitions as you go to the root, it talks about grazing, pushing out to graze. So that's what a shepherd does. So we can all be shepherds. We can push people out of grace. So while I make these videos, I try to push people to take a look at these videos and see what they can get out of them. And if I'm wrong, I want to be corrected on them. I do want to be corrected. But if I'm right, I can lead them in the right way. So again, this comes from Online Etymology Dictionary. But when we look at Malak here, it's actually Malak. Would be, it looks like the pronunciation here, Malak. But anyway, it means a messenger, meaning to dispatch as a deputy. So again, who was the Messiah? He was the word of Yahushuo. Didn't he get dispatched as a deputy? Wasn't he a messenger? Specifically of Elohim? Absolutely. That is an angel. Is the Messiah an angel? Absolutely. Based on all these historical references to these words, you dadgum right. He's the prime one. He's the main one. Also a prophet, priest, or teacher. He was all of those. The Messiah was a prophet. He was our high priest, and he's our teacher. He's an ambassador, an angel, a king, a messenger. Hallelujah. Total King James occurrences. Look at that, 213 times in the Hebrew. So that'd be in the original covenant. So Michael's angels are those who bring good tidings of the word. So anybody that is out there doing that, if you're bringing good tidings of the true word, then you're one of Michael's angels. Who is this George? Who is this George fella? Okay, so I got that from that TikTok video, and anyway, did some research on it and such, and anyway, got help with the friend that texted me yesterday too, and I'm so thankful that she texted me that, because this has turned out to be a fun study. So George is Saint George, also George of Leda, was a Christian who is venerated as a saint in Christianity. Now, of course, him getting venerated might or might not be was a good thing by by the church. But anyway, that's besides the point. Let's just look at the history to this guy. According to tradition, he was a soldier in the Roman army. So keep in mind, you remember Cornelius that came to speak to, or he didn't come. He sent some of his soldiers to go fetch Peter, and of course Peter had to have the dream before he would go speak to a Roman soldier. But anyway, Cornelius was a Messianist. He was a Christian. So anyway, so that's why Paul wrote a book to the Romans, or he wrote letters to the Romans. So anyway, so Romans were being um, they were coming into the word of Yahuwah and stopping worshiping the other gods of this world. So he was born in 275 AD. Now pay attention to when he died. Died April 23rd, 303. So at 23, I wonder if they just killed him on that day for a purpose. April 23, 303. So there's, you take that 23, the 2 times 3 is 6. I mean, really, did they really wait till that date to kill him? But the only ones that would have killed him would have been the Roman Empire at that time. And how did they kill him? Oh, and by the way, his full name was George. So they just, how he was known, he was just known George of Leda. Or if he had the family name, his father is just like Hebrew, the son of such and such. He could have been known like that too. But his full name was George. Cause of death, decapitation. So you remember there's scripture where the ones have been beheaded, again, not everybody was decapitated that was punished during this period of time, and we'll see that in a bit. But anyway, this is who St. George was, and this is when he died. He died in 303 based on their history, and that date is just interesting to say the least. And he died in Israel too, Lod, Israel. Okay. So again, these things that are underlined, if you go to this link here, you can hit these underlined parts, and it'll give you those links to those. Saint George was a martyr, of course, So let's see why he was a martyr. Like many saints, Saint George was described as a martyr after he died for his Christian faith. It is believed that during the persecution of Emperor Diocletian in the early 4th century, St. George was executed for refusing to make a sacrifice in honor of the pagan gods. So that's how a lot of Christians got killed back then. They didn't have the scriptures back then, but they had the word of Yahuwah in their mouths, and they and in their hearts, and they saw that it was wrong to honor these other pagan gods, so they didn't. Unlike the world today, so Christmas, I've got to do a study on Christmas. We got it. We got Halloween coming up. Oh my! They're honoring of these pagan gods. Halloween's all covered up with it. Christmas is covered up with it. Easter. I mean, there's multiple ones out there that are, or you can see that they're worship of other gods, and Scripture tells us not to do that, guys. He tells us not to partake of those things, of worshiping of other gods. So he was executed for refusing to do that. So, I don't know if people in this day are going to go through things like they went back then and be executed for not honoring their gods. I don't know if that's going to happen or not, but anyway, but definitely historically, it looks like they were definitely done back then. There's enough information out there. So St. George and the Dragon. Here's a statue of him. Interesting statue. He's got a knife in his hand. Here's the dragon right here. Here's another head of the dragon over here. So these dragons have multiple heads, remember. So this one looked like a two-headed dragon. And guess where it is? It's on Martin Luther King Junior Drive in Philadelphia, the city of brotherly love. Why not? Okay, and you look that up on Google. I didn't put the link here, but you can find it on. Just go to St. George and the Dragon and just put images, and it'll come up. All right, now at the UN in New York City, we got 450 East 48th Street, New York, New York. The guy on the TikTok tried to say it was 666 East 48th Street or 666 United Way something. But anyway, the address is not that. Again, we have a dragon here, two-headed, multiple-headed dragon. We got this is St. George here on a horse. Again, horses power. So in Scripture, when you see horses and chariots are not only powerful, but they're very fast. It was like Howard said the other day, it was the fastest mode of transportation back in the day. So you can look at the symbolism of it too. So, but that was in the UN gift garden. Good defeats evil's the name of it. So again, that guy tries to say, the UN's trying to take credit for, and they probably are. They're probably trying to take credit. Hey, we're the good guys. We're not the evil. We're the ones defeating evil. But you remember in Scripture it says they say good is evil and evil is good. Well, that's what you got with the UN. They see what their agenda is and they see it as good, and we all see it. The ones that are righteous, we see it as bad, as evil. So, all right. So here's a map. You got several statues of the Saint George, and we got in Stockholm, Sweden. You got two in London, England. You got one in Glasgow, United Kingdom. You got one in Tyne, England. You got one in Barrington, France. You got one in Berlin, Germany. If I can pronunciate this, you got one in Sveti Juraj, Croatia. You got another one in Zagreb, Croatia, and then you got one in Melbourne, Australia. So here's the two in America, Philadelphia, New York, and then you got all these others over in the Eastern European areas here, and then you got one in Australia. I think there's another thing in Australia, but it was not a statue. I think it's a fountain, because they had several fountains of St. George there. So can't leave out online etymology dictionary on George. So when you look up George, very interesting. It equals a farmer, tiller of the soil. Okay, I find that fascinating. So you go to Proverbs 12:11. He that tills his land shall be satisfied with bread, but he that follows vain persons is void of understanding. So you can see he that tills his land shall be satisfied with bread. So that's telling us don't follow a man. Work out your own deliverance, till your own land yourself, and you'll get satisfied with this bread. Because when Yahuwah sees that you're not putting your trust in men and you're putting your trust in his word, he's gonna reward you with that. You're gonna have much bread to satisfy yourself. So I just find it interesting that George equals farmer, tiller of the soil. So George, who was George? George was an angel and a martyr. Of course he was. If he did those things, if those stories are true, and he got decapitated because he would not sacrifice to the Roman Empire's other gods, and he was a Roman soldier himself, but because of his conviction of believing in the word of Yahuwah, that he would lay down his life and would not do it, just like many others laid down their lives too. Millions did. Who is Michael? I've had this question for a while. Who is Michael? And there's a few years back, I was thinking he was the word of Yahuwah. So I finally got a chance to just spend some time and do some research, and I think I've got some good evidence here, guys. And but let's take a look at them. All right, you find Michael in the Greek, Strong's number 3413, Mikael. It's of Hebrew origin, Hebrew Strong's number 4317. We'll look at that on the next slide. But he's an archangel. An archangel. The total times it happens in the original, or I'm sorry, the renewed covenant is only 2 times. So the one time we covered it in Revelation 12:7. We got another slide coming up. We're going to see that verse too and see where it's covered too. And I think that verse really establishes who Michael is. But now that I know who Michael is, both Revelation 12:7 and the other verse, it nails it for me. That's a couple great witnesses. But there's more. There's more than 2. So when we look at the Hebrew Strong's number 4317, we got Mikael. Mikael. It means, it comes from 2 words, and one is L, H410, but the other one is 3488, which is basically like. And I think there's that me is who, and that ka, if I'm not mistaken. But those words together make who is like God. Who is like God? If you think about who is like the Elohim, who comes to mind first? Who's the first one you think of who is like Elohim? Also, it says here the name of an archangel. So also there's 9 Israelites with that name too. So there's 13 occurrences in the Hebrew. Most of them are these other Israelites. They're not talking about the archangel Michael. But you can go check them out for yourself. There's only 13, so it shouldn't take you a long time to take a look at it. Let's go to your next slide here. We go to the Thayers on Mikael, and we got who is like Elohim again. So we got the Hebrew, Malach, and we got the Greek also means who is like Elohim. Then we got here, it says the first of the chief princes or archangels, who is supposed to be the guardian angel of the Israelites. Who was the guardian angel of the Israelites in the desert? Do y'all remember? Y'all remember who the guardian angel was? I believe I know. I believe it's the word of Yahuwah. But let's just, and that, of course, that was the Messiah that came in the flesh, but let's just carry on. So etymologically, we look at Michael. It's a masculine proper name, also the name of an archangel. Then we say here from late Latin, Michael, source of French, Michel, Spanish, Miguel, from Greek, Mikael, from Hebrew, Mikael, and literally, who is like Elohim. So again, etymologically, says the same thing. Archangel, who is like Elohim. Then we look at archangel. It's a noun, an angel of the highest order. Who's the messenger of the highest order that we know of? Who gets their word across first? Angel of the highest order. Late 12th century, from Old French archangel, 12th century, or directly from late Latin, archangelus, those Latins with their US on the end of everything. I wonder why we have the acronym US for the United States. Maybe that's because we have so much of Rome in the United States, especially our governments. I wonder if that's why they got US, United States, US. That's got to mean something. From New Testament, Greek, archangelos, chief angel. So who's the chief messenger? From ark. So if you look up ark with the hyphen there, you get chief or first. Who's the chief? Who's the chief? Who was the first? Good questions. All right, let's try to answer them. Here's the scriptures. Malachi 3:1. But behold, I will send my messenger, and he shall prepare the way before me. And the master whom you seek shall suddenly come to his temple, even the messenger of the covenant whom you delight in. Behold, he shall come, saith Yahuwah of hosts. So this is Malachi writing about the word of Yahuwah then and saying he's coming. And remember, send my messenger. Who was the other messenger? John the Baptist, that prepared the way. That was John the Baptist. Remember, he set up the figurative tabernacle, the symbolic tabernacle of Yahuwah. That way, when the chief messenger came, he would suddenly come to his temple, the messenger of the covenant. Okay, who brought the renewed covenant to us? Who did that? Not John the Baptist. It was the one who came after him. It was Yahushuo HaMashiach. John 8:42. Yahushuo said unto them, if Elohim were your father, ye would love me, for I proceeded forth and came from Elohim. Neither came I of myself, but he sent me. So when Yahuwah sends someone, is that not a messenger? Is that not an angel? Yes. So Messiah is telling them right here, he was sent. He was sent as a messenger. John 12:49-50. For I have not spoken of myself, but the Father which sent me, he gave me a commandment, what I should say and what should speak, what I should speak. And I know that his commandment is life everlasting. That means if you keep his true commandments, not the black and white commandments, but the spiritual commandments that you can pull out of that, it gives you everlasting life. Whatever I speak, therefore, even as the Father said unto me, so I speak. So he got sent again, a messenger. He speaks what the Father tells him to speak, because guess what? He's the word of Yahuwah. He's the word of the Father. So that's how creation happened. Yahuwah spoke. He spoke the word, and that's how things were created. Mark 1:14. Now after that, John was put in prison. That's John the Baptist. Yahushuo came into Galilee, preaching the gospel of the kingdom of Elohim. Remember earlier where it said angel was a pastor, and what do pastors do? They preach, preaching the gospel of the kingdom of Elohim. Okay, so again, Messiah was an angel. Luke 8:1. And it came to pass afterward that he went throughout every city and village, preaching and shewing the glad tidings of the kingdom of Elohim. And the 12 were with him. So it's talking about his apostles, his disciples, his ones that he chose to teach and such. But he came preaching and showing the glad tidings. So again, remember angel, what do angels do? Yeah, so bring tidings, bring glad tidings. That's what they do. Luke 4:43, and he said unto them, I must preach the kingdom of Elohim and other cities also, for therefore am I sent. So he preaches because he was sent to preach. So is that not an angel? Absolutely it is. John 1:1, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with Elohim, and the Word was Elohim. So the Messiah was with the Father when all creation happened. He was the Word that was spoken, that was used to create everything. And the Word was Elohim. Wouldn't that be who is like Elohim? Would that not be the Word? Psalms 103:20. Bless Yahuwah, ye his angels, that excel in strength, but do his commandments, hearkening unto the voice of his word. Ye his angels. Bless Yahuwah, ye his angels. So people are being called angels there. John, let's look at these highlighted in yellow here. John 8:58. Yahushuo said unto them, verily, verily, I say unto you, before Abraham was, I am. Then if we look at Exodus 3, here in verse 2, we get, and the angel of Yahuwah appeared unto him in a flame of fire, out of the midst of a bush. And he looked, and behold, the bush burned with fire, and the bush was not consumed. So, again, who's that angel of Yahuwah? Didn't Yahushuo just say he was I am even before Abraham? So this is Moses. This is after Abraham. And he was, and what did he say at Exodus? I am has sent me. So, I am, and he's the angel of Yahuwah. Then he says, John 10:30, I and my Father are one. Again, who is like Elohim? I and my Father are one. John 14:7, if you had known me, ye should have known my Father also, and from henceforth ye know him and have seen him. So, would that not be who is like Elohim? This is the Messiah saying, yeah, if you've seen the Father, you've seen me. Revelation 22:13, remember, archangel, the first, ark, the first, I am Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end, the first and the last. This is the Messiah speaking here. So this next slide should really nail it. If all them scriptures didn't nail it together, let's go to the next one. Jude 1:9, here's the other time in the renewed covenant where Michael is used. It says, yet Michael, the archangel, when contending with the devil, he disputed about the body of Moses, durst not bring against him a railing accusation, but said, Yahuwah, rebuke thee. So when I looked at etymology on body means the main part. So let's look at Deuteronomy 34:6. So for those that don't know, Deuteronomy was all of Deuteronomy was Moses. What he spoke was his last day of life. So he symbolically and probably literally died on that day at the very end. So it says here, and he buried him in a valley in the land of Moab. So that he is Yahuwah. So did Yahuwah literally bury him in a valley in the land of Moab? I think there's some symbolism here. If you look up what Moab is and over against Beth Peor, that's a house of a false entity, a false Elohim. So he buried him in up against a house of a false entity. So again, that's nothing new under the sun. We're good and evil, but no man knoweth of his sepulture until this day. So was they talking about the main part, like the torso of Moses? Was they disputing over the torso of Moses? No, they wasn't. What was the main body of Moses? What was his body? What was his body of work? It was the Torah, the law. It was the commandments, the instructions, the directions that Yahuwah gives us. That was Moses' main body of work. So this Michael, this archangel, he was contending with the devil, and the devil was disputing about the body. So he's disputing about the law. So when did that happen? In the renewed covenant, the temptation of Yahushuo. Here we go. Matthew 4:4. But he answered and said, it is written, man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds out of the mouth of Elohim. Deuteronomy 8:3. Here's the cross reference to that. This is part of the Torah. And he humbled thee, and suffered thee to hunger, and fed thee with manna, which thou knew not, neither did thy fathers know, that he might make thee know that man doth not live by bread only, but by every word that proceeds out of the mouth of Yahuwah doth man live. So there was a dispute right there on the body of Moses, which is the Torah. There was a dispute over the Torah. Here's a second witness to that. Matthew 4:7. Yahushuo said unto him, it is written again, thou shalt not tempt Yahuwah, thy Elohim. And then we have in Deuteronomy 6:16, ye shall not tempt Yahuwah, your Elohim, as ye tempted him in Massah. So if you look up Massah, it basically, when you look up the meaning of it as you look further into its root meaning, and you look up the etymology, it means basically habitually complaining, expressing complaint. So what did they do? Remember the story? What were the Israelites doing? They were habitually complaining and expressing complaint to Moses. They were going to Moses and complaining all the time. So anyway, so that's what Massa means there. Here's your third witness. So, 2 or 3 witnesses settle a matter. So here we go. Matthew 4:10. Then saith Yahushuo unto him, Go get hence, Satan, for it is written, Thou shalt worship Yahuwah, thy Elohim, and him only shalt thou serve. Deuteronomy 6:30. Thou shalt fear Yahuwah, thy Elohim, and serve him, and shalt swear by his name. So there's your 3 witnesses that the Michael is Yahushuo. That's when he was getting tempted. This is what Jude 1:9 was speaking to. He was speaking and he was calling. Remember, the Messiah comes with many names. Its name is a character trait. It's a authority that you have. So if you think of Michael, who is like Elohim, who had the authority to speak what Elohim gave him to speak? Who had that authority? Yahushuo. Okay. So there's that. And one more here. Michael equals the Messiah and the great prince. Michael equals the word and the messenger of Yahuwah. Isaiah 9:6. For unto us a child is born, unto us a son is given, and the government shall be upon his shoulder, and his name, his character, his authority, his honor shall be called Wonderful, Counselor, the Mighty, Elohim, the Everlasting Father, the Prince of Peace. Okay, the Everlasting Father, who is like Elohim. Okay, that child that was born, the Prince of Peace. Okay, who was that Prince of Peace? That's Yahushuo. So that's it, was all his character traits. So Michael is a character trait. That name, Michael, is a character trait of Yahushuo, the Messiah. Daniel 9:25, when we get into the 70 weeks area of prophecy, which is, got fulfilled and completed. Daniel 9:25, know therefore and understand that from the going forth of the commandment to restore and to build Jerusalem into the Messiah the Prince shall be 7 weeks and 62 weeks. The street shall be built again, and the wall even in troublous times. So Messiah the Prince. So again, we got Michael is a great prince. Messiah was the greatest prince. Daniel 12:1, and at that time, this is in the original covenant where one of the times Michael was used. I think the other times you look at Daniel 10 and just read Daniel 10 in context. Daniel 12:1, and at that time shall Michael stand up, the great prince, which stands for the children of thy people. And thy people he's talking about Daniel's people, which are the Jews. They were in captivity. This is when this was being spoken to Daniel. So thy people were just the Jews. It wasn't all the rest of the Israelites. It was just the tribes of the Jews and the ones that went into Babylonian captivity. All of Israel didn't. They had already went into captivity to Assyria. So not all the tribes went into captivity into Babylon. And there shall be a time of trouble, such as never was since there was a nation, even to that same time. And at that time thy people shall be delivered, every one that shall be found written in the book. So what is that book? That book is that, you remember that study I just did, on the a memento of clamorings, So basically it's talking about what we do on the first day of the 7th month, the day of trumpets. And it's a memento of all the times, all the wonderful times that Yahuwah has blessed us and others have blessed us, or days that we've actually helped and blessed other people. So it's all those remembrances then that you can go back. And there was a book of remembrance that was spoken of that is a memento. So these are people that were included in the first century the Jews that did not deny the Messiah. The majority of them denied the Messiah, and they paid the price when Rome surrounded the the city of Jerusalem during their festival of Passover, in I believe in maybe it was Tabernacles. I can't remember exactly, but that war went on for until 70 A.D. But anyway, there's some that time of trouble. That was the time of trouble for the Jews because they really got whacked. They had never been whacked like that. When they went into captivity in Babylon, they got released out of Babylon. They just had to suffer while they were in Babylon. But this time of trouble, a bunch of them lost their lives. Some some amazing stories that came out of there uh, in in those days back then during the Jewish war against the Romans. Who were the dragon and his angels? So let's look at that. Roman cavalry units carried a standard known as the Draco or dragon. This took a form of a metal dragon's head with an open mouth, through which the wind would blow. The body of the dragon was made up of a tube of fabric, rather like a modern windsock. So let's take a look at some of those. Again, I just Googled these. That's what the Roman soldiers would carry. So that would be their Draco or dragon, and of course you have the Dracula. You have things that mess came from Draco itself. If you look up Dracula, you'll find that it's connected to Draco. But dragon, that's what they look like there. Uh, why did Christianity conflict with the Roman Empire? The religions that Rome had the most problems with was monotheistic Judaism and Christianity, because these religions believed there was just one God. They prohibited worshiping other gods. So I know there's other Elohim, and I'm talking in a smaller sense, but there's only one true Elohim that we should worship, and that's our Creator, the Father above. And the only way through to Him is through His Word, the Messiah. So that's how we get there, is through His Word. So the Romans, they worship and give the other gods the same level of respect, and we shouldn't. Anything that's not of the Father, we should not give any respect to. How many Christians were killed by the Romans? Modern historians estimate that during this period, known as the Diocletianic or Great Persecution, and extending several years beyond the reign of Diocletian from 284 to 305. So remember, George got killed in 303 AD. As many as 3,000 to 3,500 Christians were executed under the authority of imperial edicts. I'm telling you, there's probably one day that they killed 3,000 and 3,500 Christians. So this is Wikipedia's trying to take the onus off the Catholic Church. Again, we got to be careful. There's so much evidence that there's much more that perished than this, but we're talking about that period of time from the first century. We remember Paul and Peter and all the apostles except for John were killed. I think they attempted to kill John, but he lived through it and such. So, they were killing them back in the mid to late first century, even before John was writing the Revelation. Then it carried on, and look at Nero. Go look at Emperor Nero and what he did and how drastic he was and such. And here's some of the things that they did to how were Christians killed by the Romans? The Christian martyrs suffered horrible deaths. Roman historian Tacitus, there's that U.S. again, describe Nero's method of execution. Now this is just Nero's method of execution. He dressed them in wild animal skins, and where they would be torn to pieces by dogs. So he would put old animal skins on them, and sick the dogs on them, and the dogs would tear them to pieces as though they were animals, wild animals themselves. Or they'd crucify them, just the same way the Messiah was suffered. They would crucify him. are made into torches to be ignited after dark as substitutes for daylight. So again, there's many of them burned at the stake. I know John William Tyndale was burned at the stake. He was strangled first, and then he was burned. I don't know if he burned at night or during the day, but anyway. But not only that, but also they decapitated, because that's what they did to George. They decapitated him. Now, if you look at the Roman Empire, this is a map of 117 AD. Basically, it's these green and pink areas here. It did have some client states in the gray here. But basically, when you see earth, most times when you see earth in the renewed covenant, this is the earth. It's not talking about the whole entire plane of the world. It's not at all. It's talking about this area here from Britain, on down through here. This is what Rome controlled. And you see this is over in Israel, over in this area. Here, part of Egypt was controlled, the northern parts of Egypt and such. Then you see some of the other Middle Eastern countries and such, and then some of the Eastern European places here and such were controlled. So when it talks about earth, this is what you're looking at, and you can look it up. There's look up the Greek. There's 2 different Strong's number for earth, and so please look it up for yourself. All right, so the dragon and his angels were the Roman Empire and the nations they controlled. So, of course, so if they controlled them, they could tell them what to do. And if they told them to kill the heretics, which they considered anybody that was a believer of the true Messiah, they considered them a heretic. And if they didn't bow down and worship their gods that they worship, then they'd kill them. So, like the festival of Saturnalia was a Roman festival. So I'm sure a lot of Messianists or Christians were killed during that period of time. Even maybe when they took over they won over who is it? Celtics. The Celtics had that ancient tradition that turned into Halloween today. But the Romans had the old Saints' Day, and then the Celtics had the day before, and then they just turned it to, it was called Hallows Eve. But anyway, it's just basically the worship of demons and such, and things like that. So Halloween's another one of them ones that you shouldn't partake in. But anyway, that's what I get from the dragon and his angels. Again, we'll look at Revelation 12:7 here, and there was war in heaven, Michael and his angels, and that, I believe, that included George and all the other angels that he fought beside, and even before him. You had Paul and the apostles initially, and they're fighting and such against the dragon, because the Roman Empire was basically who was controlling things. And Nero, y'all can look at Nero, what Nero did, and that was a terrible dragon, and his dragon had many angels himself. So now let's look at those 3 verses at the end of Revelation 12, and it says here, and the serpent cast out of his mouth water as a flood after the woman, that he might cause her to be carried away of the flood. And the earth helped the woman, and the earth opened her mouth and swallowed up the flood which the dragon cast out of his mouth. And the dragon was wroth with the woman, and he went to make war with the remnant of her seed, which keep the commandments of Elohim. And again, I forgot one there, and have the testimony of Yahushuo Messiah. So, or Yahushuo Mashiach. So anyway, so we got serpent, water, woman, dragon, and Yahushuo. Who do we know Yahushuo as? We know him as the Word. So this could be the testimony of the Word. Okay, so this is a lot of symbolism, guys. This is not literal. There wasn't a real serpent that cast water out of his mouth into a flood, and it went after a woman, because that woman, if you go back earlier, that woman would have been literally this lady named Mary that gave birth to the Messiah. That would have been her, but at this point in time, Mary would have been dead and gone by then. And so she wouldn't still be living. And the earth helped the woman. So this earth, remember what I was saying about earth. So let's keep that in mind. The earth helped the woman, and the earth opened her mouth. So let's take a look at it. So when we look at the etymology for Virgo, which is constellation, it equals the virgin. So when we look up virgin, it equals unmarried or chaste woman, noted for religious piety and having a position of reverence in the assembly or the church, probably related to Virga, young shoot. That's interesting. What is a young shoot? Grain is. And what's in Virgo's hand? It's a shoot of grain. So it's a young shoot. So again, I'm telling you, the constellations, I believe, are telling us more, and we need to get in there and see. I know they have names today that was not the original names, that the ones that looked at the stars back in the Hebraic days, like Daniel and such, they didn't call her Virgo. They probably called her the woman in that language then. But anyway, that is interesting. So here's your woman there. Then we got Leo equals line. So line equals also figuratively hero. So who's your hero? You know, of course the Father's your hero, but also to get to the Father, to get to your hero, you go through the Word. So that line ties into so many things. Used figuratively of lion-like persons in an approving sense, one who is fiercely brave. So George and the angels that fought against the dragon, they would be considered fiercely brave. So they would be considered lions. And a disapproving one, a tyrannical leader, greedy divorce. So there's that tyrant. Remember the Nephilim, tyrannical leaders. We have a lot of those today. So we have a lot of giants going on. We have a lot of Nephilim going on today, tyrants. Greedy devourer. Yeah, boy, I tell you what, does that not mesh with your higher ups? Greedy devourer. Okay, so Leo equals line. So what scriptures ties line to someone we know? Revelation 5:5, and one of the elders saith unto me, weep not, behold, the Lion of the tribe of Judah, the root of David, hath prevailed to open the book and to loosen the 7 seals thereof. So who is that speaking of? That's speaking of Yahushuo HaMashiach, the Messiah. Okay, and also Lion of Judah, you can get here where it's Genesis 49:9, that Judah was known as a lion. Hosea 5:14, you also get it there. Matthew 1:2 and Luke 3:33 in the genealogy of the Messiah, you get it there where he came from the tribe of Judah, which is considered the lion. Okay, so if you come from the tribe of the lion, you are a lion. Okay, so that would be the word. Messiah would be the word. So the lion is the word. The woman is his assembly. Okay, the ones that hold reference to his assembly and his word. And then we got Revelation 19:13, and he was clothed with a vesture dipped in blood, and his name is called the Word of Elohim. So there's another name. So if it was Hebrew, word would be Dabar, and this would be Dabarel. So that would be the name if you spoke it in Hebrew, but it would just basically mean the word of Elohim, which is the scriptures that we have today. And he was clothed with a vesture dipped in blood. What vesture dipped in blood? Is that real blood, or is that the figurative blood? And again, I'll let y'all come to your own decision on that, but I know where I stand there. And his name, that name is a character, that name is a authority, that name is an honor, and that's what he was called, the Word of Elohim. So that would be Dabarel. Hydrus, there's another constellation, fabulous water serpent. So there's that serpent in water. Again, Hydra, name of many-headed Lernaean water serpent. There's more to that, so I cut it off here, but if you want to look it up on etymology online for Hydrus, or Hydra. I'm sorry, Hydra. But Hydrus will take you to Hydra. used figuratively for any multiplicity of evils. So who does that fit? Does that not fit the dragon? Any multiplicity of evils. The water serpent. Interesting. So now when I go to Stellarium, and I pulled this up today. This was today's date at 1:22, just basically right after solar noon here. But anyway, we got the woman. Here's Virgo. Here's the woman right here. Here's that young shoot in her hand. And I believe this is a branch here. This is a branch from a tree. But this is a young shoot. That's an ear of grain. Remember, ear of grain, which is a beeb. They call it spica today, but spica means ear of grain. And then when you go back to Exodus, and when they came out of Egypt, the double streets, the confinement of slavery of their minds, that was called, the beginning of their months was called Abib. So it's a young shoot, a young ear of grain. Okay, Leo, here's your line. Okay, so the possession of this is the Virgo follows Leo. So the woman follows the line. Okay, in possession in the sky. So if you go out and you find where Regulus is, and then you find out where Spica is, you'll see that Spica follows Regulus. So the 6th month, this past month, in the 6th month, the sun was in Leo. Okay, and then the next month, the 7th month, was the woman assembly. So interesting. So the woman follows the word. This line is the word. The woman, his assembly, follows the word. Okay. Also, Psalms 19:2 says, "Night unto night sheweth knowledge." So I think there's a lot to these constellations, and I believe we can go back in historical in their names and such, and we can kind of figure these things out. But here's that serpent. Here's Hydra. It's called Hydrus in etymology, but it's called Hydra here in the Stellarium app. But look, it's right beside them it's there with the line. It's opposing. See, it's opposing the line and the woman right there. It's just parallel with it, opposing it. So interesting. How many times can I say interesting? A bunch of times on these studies. All right, now interesting too. The Constantine. He was Constantine the Great, 27th of February, round about 272. So that's what that C means there. Round about, they didn't know exactly when he was born, to 22 May of 337. Okay, so he lived to 337. Also known as Constantine the Great, was Roman emperor from AD 306 to 337 until he died. So remember, George, one of the angels, was killed. The angels of Michael, the angel of the word of Yahuwah, was killed in 303. So Constantine the Great, if you know the history of Constantine, he was the first emperor to convert to Christianity and become, a Messianist. Regrettably, I think he got influenced, and later on, I think initially he might have been a true Messianist. But I think he got influenced, as a lot of people will do when the adversary comes in. But he did a lot of things. He took the onus off of the Messianists back then, or the Christians back then, and he made it legal. So why is Constantine the Great important to Christianity? Here it is. He played a major role in spreading Christianity by legalizing its practice and fiscally supporting the church's activities. So who does that today? Who fiscally supports the church's activities today? Would it not be the United States corporate government with a 501c3? Absolutely. So if you're with a 501c3, regrettably, you're being supported by Rome. Is exactly where it comes from. All roads lead back to Rome. He made one of the largest contributions to the faith by summoning the councils of Arles, I guess that's Arles, in 314, which that's about 8 years later. And remember, David's PDF on early on the deal said 313, so that makes sense. So he basically took the onus off the people. It took him about 7 years until he stopped the killing of them and stuff, and then he did the one at Nicaea, and that's when they blended in a lot of their um, Romanism festivals and with the true festivals of Yahuwah. And Easter, they made Easter where it's not even counted from the true calendar of Yahuwah and such. You don't get to Passover, which Easter is a pagan goddess. But I say Easter because that's how most people understand Easter. But it's truly, Easter would be in Hebrew, it would be first fruits. So it'd be Passover would be the time you brought up out of slavery, and then first fruits would be that first day and a half in, you would offer up what you had gained by eating the unleavened bread of the word of Yahuwah. So again, I have videos on that too, on the Passover, unleavened bread, and first fruits. So you can go check those out. Which guided the church doctrine for centuries afterwards. So again, he was a big influence, and I think he was also, if you think of them on those scriptures, it was talking about the earth opened up its mouth. I think that earth was talking about the region of the Roman Empire, and it was definitely talking about the region of the earth, because that's what earth is in that particular verse there. That's what earth means. It means a region, and the Roman Empire was a region. Same way, if you remember, the second beast came up out of the earth. Okay, that was talking about out of Rome, came out of the earth. The original beast came up out of the sea because of the sea of people of that area. There was just a multitude, and they came up out of a sea of people. But the second beast came up out of the earth. So if you think about the earth opening up its mouth and swallowing up the water that the serpent had cast out of its mouth to harm the woman, I believe that was Constantine the Great that was speaking of right there. I could be wrong, but it just makes sense to me. And I think Constantine initially, like a lot of people, they start walking in the way. You remember the Messiah? I think it's Luke 6. I believe it's Luke 6:60, somewhere around late 50 verses to early 60 verses. But he had disciples walking along with him, and a few of them said, "This way is too hard," and they started leaving. And then I used to cry about this when I first came into knowing this and getting into this story. But he turned around to his other disciples and asked them, "Are you going to walk away from me too?" And Peter spoke up and he said, "There's, where would we go? There's no other way." And I used to bawl every time I would tell that story and stuff, but it's something special. So I'm just wondering, did Constantine did he really come in and he got won over, and then he just got influenced by the adversary of Satan, that spirit that said, "Well, I need to blend in. I'm causing chaos here. Let me blend in some of these pagan festivals with the true Hebrew festivals and such." So I believe that's what those verses from the last two of three verses in Revelation 12 are speaking of. So also from Revelation Timeline Decoded, we have this. I found this interesting in the epistle to Eusebius and other bishops concerning the re-edifying and repairing of churches. Roman Emperor Constantine said that, and this is his letter. He wrote this a letter to Eusebius. Liberty now restored, and that dragon being removed from the administration of public affairs. Say, a real dragon don't do public affairs. It's not administrator. But the emperors back then that were executing the Messianists, the believers in the word of Yahuwah, they were the administrators, and they were that dragon. By the providence of the great Elohim, and by my ministry. Okay, so he's saying my ministry, which he had a ministry. I esteem the great power of Elohim to have been made manifest even to all. So that comes from Eusebius' Life of Constantine. Again, you can do research there, but David makes it easy for you. But you can find this Life of Constantine and look it up yourself. The Emperor Constantine, says Eusebius, caused to be painted on a lofty tablet and set up in front of the portico of his palace so as to be visible to all, a representation of the salutary sign placed above his head, and below it that hateful and savage adversary of mankind, who by means of tyranny, there's them Nephilim again, them tyrants, tyranny of the ungodly, had wasted the church of Elohim, falling headlong under the form of a dragon to the abyss of destruction. For the sacred oracles in the books of Elohim's prophets have described him as a dragon and a crooked serpent. There's that constellation you just saw. And for this reason, the emperor there publicly displayed a painted resemblance of the dragon beneath his own and his children's feet, stricken through with a dart and cast headlong into the depths of the sea. Again, that comes from Eusebius' Life of Constantine, Book 3, Chapter 3. So George, Michael, and the dragon. I expect a lot of you became awake to who George was and who Michael is and a dragon. And I know some of you are going to disagree with who George is and who Michael is and who the dragon is. And I'm fine with that. I just wanted to share this with people out there that I find, and I find the witnesses enough that I believe George was a martyr and he was an angel. He was one of Michael's angels, which is the word of Yahuwah. And if you got the word of Yahuwah in you, you will not serve other Elohim. You will only serve one, and that's the Father above. And the only way to serve the Father above is go through his word. And the only way to go through that word is through his scriptures. So I believe we all can be angels of Michael. And that dragon, of course, is that serpent of old. You know, that spirit that whispered into the symbolic Eve's ear and talked to her about eating from the tree of good and evil. So that tree of good and evil, again, I've got a study on trees. It's going to be huge. Might have to make it into little parts because that one will be over 2 hours for sure, maybe 3 or 4. But trees are very symbolic in scripture. So, you know, I would look that way too. But anyway, I expect y'all enjoyed this, George, Michael, and the dragon. If you enjoy prophecy, like I do, you definitely enjoy it. So, and definitely George, Michael, and the dragon were fought back in the early first part of the first 1,000 years of the AD, up to about 313, the way David Wilcoxon has it dated. But it looks like Constantine came in 306. It would have probably took him a few years to get it to where they wasn't killing the believers anymore and such. So I believe he was pretty true on what he had to share on that and such. But anyway, everybody have a great night tonight. If I get this out tonight, if I don't get this out tonight, y'all have a great day tomorrow. Again, play it in double speed. That's the best way to go through my videos, because then that will cut it in half. And it's easy to do. And if you like the video, please give me a thumbs up. If you like it enough, share it. Please share it with others. And if you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe to the channel. And I'd like to give all praise and to Yahuwah. Also, I want to give again my thanks to my friend in Kentucky. You know who you are. I'm so thankful to all the people that I've studied with throughout all mine and Tanya's journeys. It's been pleasurable, and we've learned so much together. And we don't all agree on one thing, and that's true. But it's the body of work that we need to believe in, and that's what will get us out of here. Just like the body of Moses, we don't need to dispute over the body of Moses. We need to agree on that work, that all the Torah of Moses, his directions, and what they were intended to be. That's what we need to come together on. But anyway, let's give praise to Yahuwah. Hallelujah. Hallelujah indeed. See you on the next one.